Hi everyone, for this week's video I wanted to do a follow-up to my previous video where I had discussed changes that are coming in the market, and I wanted to do a follow-up because now there are New Jersey state laws that have gone into place, and these changes are coming into effect more quickly than we had expected, and more specifically, these changes are going into effect tomorrow, August 1st. So I'm going to kind of go over the changes that affect buyers and sellers the most, so that if you are in the market right now, if you're entering the market, you understand what these changes are. So for our buyers, starting tomorrow, you do need to have a signed agreement with your buyer's agent before your agent is allowed to show you any homes. So even if you've already been in the market and you've been working with an agent, now you need to sign an agreement with that agent. And you need to understand that part of that agreement is going to say what the buyer's agent's compensation is going to be. And I think that a misconception is that now the buyers are going to be responsible for this compensation, and that's not necessarily the case. You're going to be agreeing in the agreement for what the compensation is. So let's just say, your buyer's agent is going to be compensated 3% of whatever the sales price is. That doesn't necessarily mean that you as the buyer are responsible for that compensation. The seller could be responsible. If the seller is not offering out a buyer's agent compensation, you as the buyer could be responsible. Or if the seller is offering out, a certain compensation, but it doesn't cover the whole 3% in this example, that both parties could be able to compensate the agent. So I just wanted to talk about, what could happen in these situations. So you have this written agreement with your buyer's agent, and you go and you see a home, and so going back to the example, your agreement has that your buyer's agent is going to be compensated 3%, and you go and you see a home and you want to make an offer, and that seller is offering out 3% compensation for buyer's agents. That's great. Nothing that you have to worry about as the buyer. The seller is going to cover it. Now, next example, you go see a home and you love that home, want to make an offer, and that seller is not offering a buyer's agent compensation. So as the buyer, if you have the money to come out of pocket at closing to pay your buyer's agent, that's one option. Another option is to include it in your offer, asking the seller to cover the buyer's agent commission. So for example, if you are making a $500,000 offer on a home, and you include that you would like the seller to cover the 3% buyer's agent compensation, you just have to understand that you can make that offer. What you're really offering, what the seller is going to be looking at, is whatever their net number is. So in this example, the seller would say, okay, they're offering $500,000, but they're asking me to cover the buyer's agent compensation. This is really a $485,000 offer. So it doesn't happen as commonly in this market, but it used to be common in a buyer's market where buyers would ask for sellers' concessions, so money back at closing, to put towards their closing costs. So this is kind of the same thing. So previously, maybe somebody made a $500,000 offer, but they were asking the seller for $10,000 back at closing to pay for closing costs. So same thing, that $10,000 isn't coming out of the seller's pocket, it's coming out of their proceeds at closing. So for the seller, they're just looking for at their bottom line. So if they got a $500,000 offer and the buyer is asking for $10,000 back at closing, to them that's a $490,000 offer. So you can put this into your offer. Just understand, okay, what you're really offering to the seller, because they're going to be looking at the net number. So if you're offering $500,000, but you're asking for the seller to pay your buyer's agent commission, that's not really a $500,000 offer. So for sellers, it has always been the case that you do not have to pay a buyer's agent commission or compensation. But it has always been in your best interest to do so, because if you don't offer out compensation, then you are alienating those buyers who may not have the money to come out of pocket and pay their agent. So the compensation is typically a percentage of the sales price. So depending on what price range we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars that potentially now a buyer needs to come out of pocket, in addition to down payment, closing costs, extra money to cover an under appraisal. So if you as a seller do not want to offer compensation, you do need to understand that there are going to be certain buyers that are not going to look at your home because they can't come out of pocket with the money to pay their agent. And these are potentially the buyers that could be offering you the highest price on your home. The reason that we've been seeing these high prices in the market is because of the demand and how many buyers have been in the market making offers on these properties, and there's such low inventory. So if you now decrease your demand, there is a potential that you could decrease the price that you're going to accept on your home. So keep in mind, and this is important for buyers to understand too, these changes do not mean that now sellers are not going to be offering compensation. As agents, we are still going to be explaining that it is in their best interest. But some sellers may still choose not to. But when it comes to making an offer on a home, you'll understand what the seller's position is, and you'll understand what's in your best interest in making an offer on this home. So hopefully this helps. In today's real estate market, you have to understand with these changes, there is not like a seminar that all agents are required to go to. So it's really in the hands of the agents and the brokers to understand what's going on and to educate ourselves so that we can educate the consumers about what's going on. So the reason why I point this out is that understand that you may reach out to an agent to represent you that really doesn't understand what's going on and may not be giving you the right information as to what these changes mean for you. So going back to what I said earlier, it's really important to do your research, reach out to an agent that you feel comfortable with, that's knowledgeable and educated in the market and what's going on right now, and be comfortable with that person before you sign with them, whether you're a buyer or a seller. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, of course, I would hope that when you're in a position to, sign with an agent, whether it's a seller or a buyer, obviously you would go into more details about all of this. So if you're looking for help, please feel free to reach out. You could either leave me a message or you can send an email to steph.geist@gmail.com.